What will happen when a young rhino gets separated from his herd and stumbles into unknown territory? Suddenly, he falls into a deep pit, crying out for help. His desperate calls catch the attention of a hungry lion pride, and they surround him. Just when all hope seems lost, something truly amazing happens that no one saw coming. The story begins in the heart of Kruger National Park, Africa, where a big herd of rhinoceroses roamed the sunlit savanna. It was a peaceful day, and the rhinos enjoyed munching on the lush grass that covered the wide plains. Among them was a young, curious rhino who loved adventure. Tired of the same old sights, he decided to explore beyond the safety of his family. He wandered into a new area with rolling hills and hidden dangers, his excitement growing with every step. As he walked, he didn't notice the risks hidden beneath the surface. Suddenly, the ground gave way beneath him. With a startled cry, he fell down a steep slope. The fall seemed to go on forever. When he finally landed, he was at the bottom of a deep pit. The walls were steep and smooth, making it impossible for him to climb out. He tried jumping, but his heavy body couldn't lift him high enough. Trapped and frightened, he realized he needed help to escape this predicament. Panicking, the young rhino began to trumpet loudly, hoping that someone would hear his cries for help. His desperate calls echoed across the savanna, reaching his herd. Hearing the distress in his voice, the other rhinos quickly rushed to the pit, their concern growing with every passing moment. They peered down into the pit and tried their best to help. They threw down branches and grass, trying to build a ramp, but their efforts proved futile. The walls were too steep and slippery for anything to make a difference. The rhinos even attempted to help each other climb down, but their hooves kept slipping, and they couldn't reach their trapped friend. As the sun began to set, the situation became more critical. The trapped rhino's cries grew more frantic, and the peaceful sounds of the savanna started to shift. Growls from lions echoed across the land. The predators had spotted the vulnerable rhino and were moving closer to the pit, ready to seize an easy meal. The lions approached with slow, deliberate steps, their eyes shining with hunger. The rhinos around the pit felt the growing danger and became increasingly anxious. They tried to protect their companion from above, but with the lions closing in, they were helpless and could only watch in fear as the predators surrounded the pit, closing in on their trapped friend. The trapped rhino watched in horror as his herd began to retreat. Fear gripped him as he saw the lions drawing closer. The first lion emerged from the tall grass, baring its teeth, followed by others, who formed a wide circle around the pit. The rhinos tried to defend their friend, but there were too few of them against the entire pride. One by one, they were forced to back away, leaving the trapped rhino alone to face the predators. Despair filled his heart as he continued to cry out for help, but now his voice was tinged with hopelessness. Just when it seemed like the lions would pounce, something incredible happened. The ground began to tremble. At first, the shaking was barely noticeable, but it quickly grew stronger. A huge cloud of dust appeared on the horizon. The elephants were coming. A massive herd of elephants advanced with purpose, their heavy footsteps causing the earth to quake. At the front of the herd was a giant elephant with long tusks. He let out a powerful trumpet that echoed across the savanna. The other elephants followed behind, forming a protective barrier between the lions and the pit. The lions, taken by surprise, hesitated and began to retreat. They were wary of the powerful elephants and slowly backed away from the pit. The elephants advanced steadily, pushing the predators further from their intended prey. Once the lions were at a safe distance, the elephants turned their attention to the trapped rhino. They gathered around the pit, carefully examining the situation. The leader of the elephants stretched his trunk down into the pit, trying to reach the rhino. At first, the trapped rhino was scared by the sight of these huge animals, but he soon felt a glimmer of hope as he watched their gentle actions. The elephants worked as a team, using their trunks to drop branches and dirt into the pit, hoping to build a ramp for the rhino to climb. The young rhino tried to climb the makeshift ladder, but it was too shaky and fell apart under his weight. Even though the elephants tried their best, they couldn't lift the rhino out. The pit was too deep, and the rhino was too heavy for their makeshift solutions. Meanwhile, the lions weren't giving up. They circled the pit, waiting for the right moment to strike. The elephants had to divide their efforts, with some continuing to work on the rescue, while others kept watch against the predators. As night fell over the savannah, the elephants stayed alert. They took turns resting, always leaving one elephant on guard. The trapped rhino, tired and hurt, found some comfort in the presence of his brave rescuers. At dawn, the elephants renewed their efforts with fresh determination. They tried to widen the edges of the pit using their strength, but the hard soil made progress slow. The lions watched from a distance, adding to the growing tension. Just then, a helicopter appeared overhead. It was the National Park Rangers. They quickly assessed the situation and landed nearby. One ranger radioed for urgent help and additional equipment. A few hours later, a rescue team arrived with heavy machinery. An excavator began working carefully to widen one of the pit's slopes. The elephants watched anxiously, making worried sounds as they observed the equipment at work. The trapped rhino was frightened by the noise, but was too weak to move. The rescue team worked diligently, creating a gentle slope for the rhino to climb out. When the slope was nearly ready, a veterinarian descended into the pit to examine the rhino and ensure he was okay. The rhino was severely weakened and had several wounds from the lion's attacks. The veterinarian quickly started treating his most serious injuries right there in the pit and prepared for the final stage of the rescue. Using a winch and soft straps, the team began to lift the rhino up the slope. It was a tough job, and the rhino slipped back several times, but the team didn't give up. The elephants stood close by, ready to lend a hand if needed. After many tense hours, the rhino was finally lifted to the surface. Though he was weak and confused, veterinarians immediately attended to him. They gave him injections to boost his strength and prevent infections. They also provided water and nutrients through a feeding tube to help him recover. As the rhino was being cared for, the elephants seemed to celebrate the successful rescue, trumpeting and waving their trunks joyfully. The rangers were amazed by the elephant's kindness, showing such care for another species. Instead of taking the rhino to a rehabilitation center, the rangers decided to let him heal in his natural habitat, while keeping a close watch. Within a few days, the rhino regained enough strength to walk on his own. The rangers guided him back to his herd, where he was warmly welcomed. The young rhino survived thanks to the remarkable compassion and teamwork of the elephants, showing a beautiful example of interspecies kindness and cooperation. So, what are your thoughts about this heart-touching story? Share your opinions in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe to stay updated on our new animal stories. Your support means the world to us.